Hello YouTube, this is Darth Vickers, and it has been a year since my first video. I am very sorry that I have not uploaded anything in a year, but high school and college get in the way, and it was just very difficult time for me. But all apologies aside, I would like to thank you all. Over this past year, I have gotten 59 subscribers, and I thank you all very much. And I have gotten over 6,000 views on my first video, which is something great, just something that I'm just happy about all the time, something that can bring me joy, and it makes me feel good about myself, which is something that doesn't happen very often. So I thank you all for that. But all, what would be the word? Sappiness aside, let's just get straight to the video. I know I said that in the end of my last video, the next series thing would be Exar Kun versus Mace Windu, but I had trouble with both of those, saying as there's just so much about them, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of Exar Kun. I know, it's crazy, people love him, but I'm not a big fan of him. I am a huge fan of Windu, though, so I feel like I'd be kind of biased in that. However, with both of these combatants, I feel like I enjoy them both to a point where I would be able to leave bias aside and let the actual statistics show what would happen. So I decided to go with two semi-dark Jedi Knights from the Clone Wars. So, without further ado, this is Versus Series 2. Quinlan Vos versus Anakin Skywalker. Enjoy. Quinlan Vos was a male Kifar Jedi in the Jedi Order and a general in the Grand Army of the Republic during the Clone Wars against the Confederacy of Independent Systems. He hailed from the planet Kifu in the Inner Rim. With long, dreadlocked hair and a band of pale yellow across his upper face, Vos was gifted with psychometric powers which allowed him to read memories from inanimate objects through physical contact. Vos had an ongoing struggle with the dark side of the Force, particularly after he sustained recurrent amnesia after he overdosed on an illegal drug administered by an enemy shortly after the Battle of Naboo. The Sith Lords Darth Sidious and Darth Tyrannus both showed an interest in him, and while Vos served under Dooku for a while, he eventually redeemed himself and was readmitted into the Jedi Order. As the war continued, Vos served on numerous missions, including the hunt for Hutt crime lord Zero the Hutt. I'm just going to say Zero the Hutt, because I don't know how to say that name. Throughout the war, Vos was openly disdainful to the clone troopers under his command, which led him to being disliked by clones and hated by Sergeant Kal Sikara. Vos was on Kashyyyk as part of the battle there when Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, in reality the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, issued the clone troopers to kill their Jedi superiors. Despite serious injuries, Vos escaped as one of the few survivors of the Great Jedi Purge and settled on Kashyyyk with his lover, Colleen Hence, and raised a son named Corto Vos. I feel as if this bio is not really needed, but I still will go over it anyway. Anakin Skywalker was a Force-sensitive human male who served under the Galactic Republic as a Jedi Knight and later served the Galactic Empire as the Sith Lord Darth Vader. Born to the slave Shmi Skywalker in 41.9 BBY, Anakin was conceived by midichlorians, the symbiotic organisms that allowed an individual to touch the Force, and he and his mother were brought to the desert planet of Tatooine to be slaves of Gardula the Hutt. They soon ended up as property of the Toydarian Watto, and Skywalker exhibited exceptional piloting skills and a reputation for being able to build and repair anything, even at a young age. In 32 BBY, Skywalker encountered the Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn and Padme Amidala, and he helped them secure the parts they needed for the starship by winning the Bunta Eve Classic Pod Racing event, only to learn that he had also won his freedom in doing so. Reluctantly leaving his mother behind, Skywalker accompanied Jin to his group to the Republic's capital of Coruscant and participated in the Battle of Naboo, helping to free Amidala's homeworld from the armies of the Trade Federation. While Jin was killed during the battle, Jin's student Obi-Wan Kenobi followed Jin's wishes and took on Skywalker as his Padawan, and much of the Jedi Council believed that Skywalker was the chosen one of Jedi prophecy, one who would bring balance to the Force by destroying the Sith Order. Skywalker and Kenobi had a number of adventures during the Padawan's decade of training to become a Jedi, but as the Separatist crisis threatened to tear the Republic apart in 22 BBY, Skywalker was reunited with Amidala when he was assigned to protect her from assassins. The two grew close during the course of the assignment, though they were caught up in the Battle of Geonosis at the beginning of the Clone Wars between the Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Losing an arm during the fighting, Skywalker received a cybernetic replacement, and he and Amidala were secretly married in the days after the battle, despite the Jedi Code's restriction on attachments. During the Clone Wars, which raged for the next 3 years, Skywalker was granted the rank of Jedi Knight and became known to the public as the hero with no fear. Taking on Ahsoka Tano as his apprentice, Skywalker fought alongside Kenobi and his fellow Jedi in scores of battles, and his friendship with Supreme Chancellor Palpatine deepened by the Jedi Order's wariness of Palpatine's rapid sense of acquisition of further powers during the Clone Wars. Throughout the Clone Wars, Skywalker's anger and sense of loss pushed him even closer to the dark side of the Force, and his visions of Amidala dying in childbirth in 19 BBY made him desperate to find a way to save his wife. Palpatine, who is in fact the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious, manipulated Skywalker into becoming his apprentice with the promise of saving Amidala, and Skywalker became the Sith Lord Darth Vader as Palpatine transformed the Republic into the Galactic Empire and decimated the Jedi Order. Skywalker was struck down in 19 BBY by his own master Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar. Though not dead, he was severely hampered and took much prosthesis to enable himself to live, becoming the iconic Darth Vader. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get to the challenge. We start off by defining their physical capabilities. Quinlan Vos was a male Kifar who was in the prime of his life at the time that I have decided for this battle. He was very acrobatic, and showed this in his skill on Ataru. He has no major weaknesses due to his species, however, he has a very powerful strength due to his race, the power of psychometry. This allowed him to see the origins of any object he could touch, which is useful for tracking. However, I do not believe this would come into play with this battle, as it gives him no benefits in combat. However, he was a very hardy individual who could take a lot of physical punishment, as shown by during the Order 66 attack. He was next to a tank which exploded and was able to walk away okay. So if that's not badass, I don't know what is. Anakin Skywalker was a 22-year-old human male. He was in physically perfect health, except for his prosthetic right arm. However, this arm gave him superhuman strength, which helped him power through his opponents, along with his skill in Dijem So. This also gives him a unique edge, as he could lose this limb and continue fighting as if nothing else happened. He was hardened during the war and came in his physical prime. Therefore, I think that he was the strongest in this time period of his life. I'm going to give the edge to neither of them. Both of them show extreme strength and agility with both of their fighting styles and abilities, and both of them would offset each other with their natural innate abilities. I don't think Anakin Skywalker's prosthetic arm would play too much into it, as they both are already bolstering their strength through the abilities of the Force. So, I give no edge to either combatant. Now on to Force abilities. Quinlan Vos had a large arrangement of Force abilities, as he studied under Count Dooku for a time as a Dark Jedi, and he trained as a Jedi in the Jedi Order. He was proficient in telekinesis, slam, crush, and even Force lightning. However, all of these took a light backseat to his lightsaber battling. He focused more on his physical surges of the Force power. He had a very acute weakness to the dark side, as Dooku threw him aside in their first few seconds of their battle. Anakin Skywalker, commonly known as the Chosen One, was one of the most powerful Force sensitives that the Jedi Order has ever seen. This does not mean that he is the most powerful Force user, as he decided to go through both his abilities, channel both of his abilities into his lightsaber dueling. So he was a master of telekinesis and Force thrust abilities. He was able to do amazing things with the Force. However, he didn't use his Force abilities as much as he focused as a Jedi Guardian on his saber abilities, which he preferred above all things else. So his Force powers deteriorated until he became Darth Vader. And for the verdict on Force abilities, I give the edge to, once again, neither opponent. But Anakin Skywalker is the most powerful Force sensitive in recorded Jedi history. However, did he use these abilities? No. His abilities were about as strong as Obi-Wan Kenobi's were at the end of the war. However, Quinlan Vos wasn't very strong in the Force either, as he focused more on his surges and physical capabilities. So, even though Quinlan Vos has more variety, Anakin is technically more stronger. Wonderful grammar. Anyway, it's a tie. The verdict here on Force abilities is a tie. Alright, the moment we've all been waiting for. Both Jedi Guardians are more focused in their lightsaber combat, so this is really what the fight comes down to. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. Quinlan Vos was a lightsaber specialist, to say the least. He'd mastered the fourth form of lightsaber combat, Ataru, the acrobatic and aggression form, which focused on flips and jumps involved in their lightsaber combat. Quinlan Vos was a very acrobatic duelist, using both Ataru and Form 5 Shien. He preferred the reverse grip of the latter, which allowed him to deflect blaster bolts back at opponents. Now, he also used the very experimental form Vapad, which was the form Mace Windu developed before the Clone Wars began. Now, this form requires a lot of self-control, which is something that Quinlan Vos was not able to show when he first learned the form, saying as he fell to the dark side, along with the co-creator of Vapad, Sora Bulk. However, I do think that Quinlan Vos's use of Vapad is a valid use of the form. While it's not the mastery that Mace Windu had, it is quite strong, and was able to defeat the co-creator of the form, Sora Bulk. His skill in these forms showed his skill with acrobatics, as well as these forms being very fluid and open. They don't give him very many defensive capabilities against other sabers, however, saying Shien is meant for blaster deflection, not lightsaber combat. However, he could not last too long before becoming sloppy, at least in the Clone Wars TV show, which I do not think that Quinlan Vos's portrayal is very good in that. However, I do think that if he stayed on the attack, he would be able to beat most opponents. Anakin Skywalker was known as one of the greatest duelists in the Jedi Order's history. He was an acclaimed master of Form 5, the Gem So. He was a practiced user of Form 5 Shien. Both were focused around the advancement of the Form 3 Suresu, which was taking it and using a Makashi mentality, blocking, then instantly countering. The Gem So was known for its brute strength, but lack of mobility. It was weak against Ataru duelists and, well, people that could get around its defenses, such as Vapad or Juyo duelists. However, Anakin Skywalker has only lost one true battle as a Form 5 master. He had practiced Shien and when he fought Count Dooku and lost his arm. However, he was not a master of the form by that point. At the end of the Clone Wars, when he fought Obi-Wan Kenobi's use of Form 3 was able to outlast Anakin's Gemso. But also, Anakin's own arrogance fell into that. If the fight had been on a level ground where there had not been no Sokan advancements, I believe the fight would have gone on a lot longer and may have ended in a completely different way. Anakin Skywalker's abilities were outstanding. He was able to defeat people just by beating them down, breaking concrete below them, as shown in his first fight with Asajj Ventress. Anakin Skywalker was truly a brute to behold. And now for the lightsaber combat verdict. Which is better, acrobatics and defense piercing, or the strongest offense with brute strength able to match it? Honestly, I say I'd have to go with acrobatics, due to the Gemso's weakness against acrobatic opponents, especially against Ataru. The lack of mobility from Gemso leaves Anakin open for other strikes. Anakin had a simple proficiency with Ataru, but he preferred his Form 5 offensive. So, also, there is one other thing that I forgot to mention with both of these combatants. That's their Force Rage. Both of them have fell to the dark side at certain points, and Anakin especially focuses on his Force Rage to bolster his attacks. However, he develops a somewhat of a tunnel vision when he's attacking, as shown in his fight during Episode 3 against Obi-Wan Kenobi. Quinlan Vos' use of Vapad would allow him to channel the energy from Anakin Skywalker into himself, and, well, Anakin wouldn't be able to outlast Vapad. So, I'm going to give the edge to Quinlan Vos. And now for the verdict. Honestly, this is one of the closest fights that I've ever observed in any versus series videos. Now, I'm not going to give myself a pat on the back saying I found two really good combatants, as these two just kind of naturally fight against each other, as they both are Dark Jedi from the Clone Wars who either found the light again or were just lost. Both were great lightsaber duelists and okay Force users. They were Jedi Guardians. But I think we see where this is going to go with the verdict ending. Quinlan Vos is going to win this in the end. He's fought against raging berserker Jedi Masters such as Sora Bulk and survived. Honestly, I feel like a fight between the two of these combatants would go very similar to that fight where Quinlan Vos defeated Sora Bulk. It would start off with them raging in a lightsaber duel against each other. Anakin using Force abilities every once in a while, Force pushes, but Quinlan would be able to either parry or just take the damage as he's ragdolled back. But Quinlan, with his acrobatics, would be able to get back up on his feet. Using his abilities of Vapad, he would just be able to channel the abilities that Skywalker was using against him. And as Skywalker flew into a rage, he would have no chance against a Vapad user, as well as an Ataru duelist who's good at getting around the Gemso offense. Therefore, I give the victory to the Jedi Knight, Quinlan Vos. Now, this is all opinion-based, so please don't be upset if Anakin Skywalker is who you thought should have won. Post down in the comments below why you thought the other combatant should have won, or if you agree with me that Quinlan Vos' acrobatics were good enough to get around Anakin's